Summary of the Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. As part of an environmental study, a group of researchers find a hidden cemetery on the grounds of Nickel Academy, a reform school that closed not long ago. The state of Florida has to reopen investigations into the many abuse stories about the notorious school because most of the bodies have not been recognized. The media is talking about the sad things the archaeology team found, but Nickel graduates, who are called the Nickel Boys, are still posting stories on a website about how they were abused physically, emotionally, and sexually at school. The Nickel Boys have been planning yearly trips to the school and telling everyone about their horrible pasts for a few years now, but no one paid attention until the archaeology team proved what they said. One Nickel boy named Elwood Curtis lives in New York City and reads about all the different stories about Nickel. He doesn't go back to school because he doesn't want to face his sad past. In the 1950s and 1960s, Elwood grew up in Tallahassee. He lived with his grandma and went to work with her at the Richmond Hotel. Elwood, who is young, works in the kitchen and wonders when he will see the first black person sitting down at one of the tables in the dining room. He thinks that soon all the visible walls will come tumbling down because the Supreme Court just said that separate schools are illegal. It's one thing to tell someone to do what's right and another thing for them to do it, his grandma says. In his teens, Elwood works at a cigar shop run by Mr. Macroni, an Italian-American man. Even though Mr. Macroni is nice and easygoing, Elwood still works very hard. He wants to build a sense of dignity, which comes from listening to Martin Luther King Jr.'s record Martin Luther King at Zion Hill, which is the only record Elwood has. On this recording, Dr. King tells African Americans to honor themselves by working hard and standing up against racism with pride. This makes Elwood grow a strong sense of right and wrong, and he refuses to give up his values, even though it gets him into trouble sometimes. Still, Elwood does very well as a student and a hard worker. A few years into high school, Elwood meets Mr. Hill, his new history teacher. Elwood likes Mr. Hill right away because he is a young black man who is active in the civil rights movement. Mr. Hill also sees Elwood's strong work ethic and desire for fairness and quickly takes him under his wing. At this point, Elwood plans to go to a protest in front of the Florida Theater, a segregated movie theater in Tallahassee. He goes to the rally even though his grandma told him not to. At first he feels out of place, but soon he sees Mr. Hill in the crowd. Through a small group of committed organizers, Mr. Hill helps Elwood feel like he is part of a community for the first time. That summer, Mr. Hill tells Elwood about a chance to go to Melvin Griggs Technical, an African-American college that wants driven young men like him to take free classes while they finish high school. Elwood is thrilled about this chance and goes after it. He hitches from Tallahassee to school on the first day of class and gets into a nice car driven by a black man. Soon, a police officer pulls the car over to the side of the road and arrests both Elwood and the driver. It turns out that the car had been stolen. So, instead of going to Melvin Griggs, Elwood is sent to Nickel Academy, a cruel punishment school that separates its black and white students without permission. When Elwood goes into the bathroom on his first night at Nickel, he sees Lonnie and Black Mike beating up Corey, a younger boy. When he tries to help, a staff member tells Superintendent Spencer, a scary white man, about all four boys. Spencer told Elwood how Nickel works when he first got to school, so he already knows Spencer. When boys work hard and behave well, they get marks, which help them move up the ranks. Someone will be let out into the free world again if they earn enough points. At midnight, Spencer and his helper Earl wake the four boys up and bring them to the White House, a run-down house where they treat students badly. They beat each boy separately in a different room. Elwood tries to keep track of how many lashes Spencer gives him, but he passes out before Spencer is done. Elwood is locked up in the school's hospital for weeks after his first beating. There, he meets Turner, a boy from his room who ate soap to avoid school and work. Another thing that surprises Elwood about Nickel is that the boys only go to class every other day and do hard work the other days. Even worse, Elwood has learned that a student's progress toward graduation is not affected by how well they do in school. Instead, Work and respect are the only things that earn merits, and you never know when a staff member will take away merits or punish someone. Turner tells Elwood that even though he got more lashes than most teens, he was still lucky because boys don't always come back from the White House. Elwood is shocked and says that he and Turner should do something to bring attention to Nichols' wrongdoings. Turner laughs at him and says that the only way to stay alive here is to stay alone. Elwood doesn't like this idea because it goes against his sense of dignity, but when he gets out of the hospital, he tries to follow Turner's advice by working hard and staying out of trouble. Turner suggests Elwood for a job on the community service team, which he is already a part of, soon after he leaves the hospital. Harper is the young white guy who is in charge of community service. He is nice to Turner and Elwood and says that he pretty much sees them as equals. The two boys drive around the nearby town of Eleanor with Harper to do jobs and sell goods that the school gets from the government without permission. The story jumps ahead in time from time to show Elwood's life as an adult in New York City. Elwood works as a successful professional mover in the city, where he moved soon after leaving Nickel. At some point, about 50 years after his time at Nickel, he meets Chicky Pete, another Nickel boy. Chicky wants them to get a drink, so they do. They go to a bar and talk about old times instead of Spencer's angry behavior. Chicky is a drunkard who has had a rough time since he broke up with Nickel. He's thrilled to see Elwood and can't wait to talk about the past. Chicky asks Elwood when he got out of Nickel. Elwood is shocked to see that Chicky doesn't remember that he ran away. For all these years, he had thought that his friends must have been moved by the story of how he escaped. But now he knows that the government didn't tell anyone about his success. When Elwood leaves the bar, he gets angry that someone like Chicky Pete made it through Nickel Academy while his friend did not. It's not clear what this means yet, though. Going back to the 1960s, Nickel is going to be inspected by a group of government workers. Director Hardy knows about the inspection ahead of time, so he or she stops classes so that the students and staff can fix up the school. Since he's been keeping track of the packages he and Turner make as part of their community service work, Elwood chooses to write a letter about what the school is doing wrong. Turner gets angry when he hears that he plans to give the letter to the inspectors. He says that this will only lead to Elwood's death. He had just shown his friend the 2 iron rings on the edge of campus, where Spencer sometimes chains up black students and kills them by torturing them, then saying that the victims got away. Turner gets angry and says, "They're going to take you out back and bury your behind," but Elwood won't listen. He puts the letter in his pocket on the day of the check. But he can't give it to them because the only time he's close to them is when he's standing out in the open. And so he tries again that afternoon, but Harper tells him to do something on the other side of campus, which means he can't finish the job. But when Turner saw how upset Elwood was, he told him he would deliver the letter himself. Turner is able to give the inspectors Elwood's letter. The next night, Spencer takes Elwood to the White House and beats him again before locking him up alone. His only reason for not killing him right away is that he is afraid the government will raid Elwood's letter and look into it. Things don't happen for 3 weeks, so Turner finds out that Spencer is going to kill Elwood the next day. He meets Elwood in the middle of the night and helps him get away. They go to a nearby empty house and then ride off on stolen bikes. Turner has always said that if he tried to leave, he wouldn't bring anyone with him. But Elwood would die if Turner didn't help him, so he's breaking his own rule. The community service van shows up behind the 2 boys around dawn. They get off their bikes, jump a fence, and run through a long field. Someone from Harper's team gets out of the car and runs after them with shotguns. Elwood is shot by Harper as Turner turns around to look back. Turner then jumps over another fence and escapes into the woods. Turner finally goes back to Florida at the end of the book. He has used Elwood's name as his own for the past 50 years. He does this to honor Elwood and hopes that he would be proud of the life he's made for himself. Today he is married to Millie, a lovely woman. He lied to her about his past, but now he finally tells her the truth about his time at Nickel. When she hears this, She comforts him and agrees that he needs to go back to Nickel to bury Elwood's body properly. Turner gets to Tallahassee, checks into his hotel, and then goes downstairs to eat dinner. He reads the menu while waiting for a waiter and learns that the hotel used to be called the Richmond. He doesn't remember Elwood's story about thinking that he was sitting in the kitchen and a black person was eating in the dining room, but he makes his old friend's wish come true without intending to.
About the author. Colson Whitehead was born in Manhattan and grew up there. He went to Trinity School and Harvard University and graduated in 1991. After that, he went back to New York and started working as a writer for the Village Voice. At the same time, he wrote his first book, The Intuitionist, which came out in 1999. Whitehead has now written a number of books, some of which are The Underground Railroad, Zone 1, and The Nickel Boys. Whitehead is known for writing funny things, but his work also crosses over into other types of writing, like science fiction. Besides stories, he has written a lot of articles and 2 non-fiction books. A lot of people have given him awards, like the National Book Award for The Underground Railroad, a Whiting Award, a Guggenheim Fellowship, and a MacArthur Fellowship. Whitehead lives in Brooklyn, New York.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.